Hello there, this is Mark Holthe, Canadian immigration lawyer, ex-immigration officer, and former high school teacher, joining you once again here on the Express Entry Law private Facebook group for another EE Live Q&A. Well, guys, there is no shortage of technical difficulties going on today. First, my mic wasn't working properly, and I've got some kind of a little bit of a hum. And if I'm listening here, I can kind of hear it in the background. I think the audio level is loud enough for all of you guys to hear, but I do recognize, at least for me, with my keen ear, I'm picking up a little bit of humming in the background, so hopefully it's not too annoying. Welcome. We're about 40 minutes behind where we should be. I'm sure most of the people that were expecting to watch this today at 12 o'clock were wondering, Mark, where are you? Well, sometimes my staff are all gone. Stephanie's actually away today, and I'm doing this all on my own again, and it's not easy. So I thought I'd test my audio a little bit in the beginning to see how it sounded, because last time someone said it was too quiet. And I know that if I get in a little bit closer here, the audio is a little bit better. But I think my awesome little Mackie mixer and my Heil PR40 microphone, I think there's something wrong with them. And I think after all these years of lots of podcasts and broadcasting, I think they're getting tired, because I'm getting a little bit of a feedback loop that's creating a little bit of a static interference. So if any of you guys out there are audio visual technical experts, I'd love to tap your brain, because I'm thinking there's some issues with my audio. Anyways, that's okay. I appreciate those of you who are diligent and that are just patient, jumping on and joining me here once again live to talk about Express Entry. And I'm looking forward to going to Winnipeg this year for our national conference, speaking on the panel with the immigration folks in Ottawa who run the Express Entry system. And I'm always looking for opportunities to provide more information and to teach you guys and to help you to understand how to avoid the pitfalls and the common problem areas. And I'll talk a little bit about this today, but because it's going to be a little bit shortened, a little bit abbreviated, because I have another client appointment at 1:30 today, I usually like to give myself about an hour and a half time so that I can go over a little bit and still prepare for my next client. But I have an appointment with a client who's coming into the office at 1:30 today, and it's about 12:42. So today, rather than going through the emails, those of you who are so diligent to join me live, I'm going to answer your questions for the balance of the maybe 30 minutes that we have here together. So instead of starting off with our traditional email questions, I'm just going and diving right in and talking and answering all of your questions live. So I'm going to see if I can find the broadcast here live, if it's even posted on the site, so that I can check out all of your questions. And let's see if I can find it here. I'm waiting for Facebook to make it even appear on the Express Entry Law timeline. It's really interesting. Okay, I think maybe this is it. Oh, I was live. Okay, I think, wow. It's amazing, isn't it, guys? I wish there was a better way to do these. One of my moderators suggested that I focus on a particular area of Express Entry during each episode so we could really drill down and really talk in depth about them. And I think that's a direction that I'm going to go. But for today, we're just going to keep it open. We're going to keep it real, keep it live. And now the key for me is being able to actually find my live video feed on the Express Entry Laws private Facebook group's timeline. And so let's see here. Okay, I think I found it. Just give me 1 second, folks. Okay, hopefully you can all hear me. Let's see. Okay, Mauricia says the audio is working good. Okay. Oh, you guys have no idea how stressful it is trying to make this work. And for years, I had a system that was really good. and it's worked fine. But now I'm finding when I switch from my Facebook Live videos to do my podcast, the audio levels get all screwed up. And then when I'm trying to test it, it just doesn't work. But that's fine. Okay, so let's see where all of you guys are tuning in from. Just post. I know some of you have already been doing that. That's great. Nisha is from Chandigarh. Hello. Kushi's New Delhi. Mauricia, yes, says the audio is working well. Fantastic. And then we've got some people who are already asking questions. Hang tight just for a second. And then Jagdish says here, I want to ask some. Will you reply? Heck yeah, I'll reply, but you got to be patient, my friend. Okay, let's see. Harry King says your moderator, James Caesar, is very helpful. That is awesome. He's a good dude. He's good. All right, let's see here. Okay, so a couple things I want to share with you guys today before we jump into the live questions. I see Kara is from St. Lucia. Very cool. And Hassan is China origin from Pakistan. Very cool. And Igor's there. Hi, Igor. How you doing? We are just about ready for you, my friend. We are frantically working through your application. All right. Thanks for joining. It's awesome to have you here. Okay. All right. So those of you who are posting comments, hold off with your questions just for the time being, and just let me know where you're tuning in from. I'm actually totally blown away. You know, some days we can do this right on the schedule, right at noon, and then, you know, I only have a handful of people that are usually connected. But now, I'm amazed. We've got way more people attending this, even though it is at an irregular time. So I can't figure this out. I guess it just depends on when Facebook is actually going to let it show on your timelines. Okay, Do is from Vietnam. Tamal is Kolkata. Very cool. Okay, so I want to share my screen for a second here, if I can. I'll share my screen there. And then I'm going to jump over to our group. I'm going to jump out of here. I'm going to show you guys right here. We are now officially 120,243 members. And the reason that is so cool is because if I was to go in and show you, there are a ton of people who have gone through, who have used all of the awesome resources, whether it's this Facebook group or who have connected and used my do-it-yourself guide or book consults with me or whatever it is, and that have become what I call graduates of the Canadian Immigration Institute. They're now maybe permanent residents of Canada, or in actuality, maybe they've realized that they just don't have a chance of qualifying, that their comprehensive ranking system is too low, and that they'll never get an ITA. And so they've dropped out and they've removed themselves from the group. I consider that as much a valuable service, helping people to know when they don't have a chance, as helping them to immigrate, because then they won't be spending their money on these crooked consultants and agents who are just looking to exploit them. So I take great pride in the fact that we are holding strong at 120,000. And I've talked repeatedly in the past about having an opportunity to celebrate this huge achievement, because these are real people. Facebook did their cull of members a while back, and we dropped, I think, 2,500. And we are holding steady with the same number of people that are joining as there are that are no longer needing to be a part of the group. And I think that is so absolutely amazingly cool. So thanks to all of you guys that are out there. So 120,243 is awesome. I have to update my screen. I got to update a lot of things, guys. But this whole process is really a labor of love for me. I'm doing it because I absolutely love it. And although I haven't been able to get on and answer as many questions as people would expect me to, I'm still on pretty frequently answering. And so those people, those of my moderators who are out there trying to help people and direct them and guide them, so cool. But I want to announce something that I think is going to be fantastic. One of the challenges I have is time zones. Sometimes it's hard for me to be able to interact directly with people because you guys are, in some cases, it's 1 a.m. in the country where you're listening. Well, the reality is I want to always be providing better service. So I have just recently entered into an agreement with a Philippine lawyer who had a private relationship with before, a previous relationship, and she is going to join our team. And I'm also looking at the possibility of having someone from India also come and join our team and work virtually through our office, so that we have people on the ground in the same time zones as the people are that are basically hiring our services. And so I'm really excited about that. I'll introduce everyone to this Philippine lawyer. I'll introduce you to her in a little bit here as we get things ironed out. But it's so cool to think that I can be here in Lethbridge, Alberta, and that I can service people and help them all over the world. This Facebook group is only one of the ways in which I do it. I've got so many other avenues, so many other channels, but hey, the reason this group is so successful is not because of me. It's because of all of you. So the reason I do this is a way to give back, to do my part in trying to help you guys navigate the complexities of Express Entry. So I've spent enough time jabbering on right now. What I would like to do now is dive right in and answer your live questions. So if you have a question that you want me to answer, what I want you to do right now is to start posting those right in the comment section here in the Express Entry Law private Facebook group. So I can follow the comments here, and what I'll do is I will answer and then have the ability to show you, in some cases, right on the government websites where you can get the information yourself. So let's connect here, and then we'll go from here. All right. And Yamisi says, what about Nigeria? Well, I can tell you that may very well be on the radar. So stay tuned. All right. Okay, so let's start here. And okay, let's start with Harry. So Harry Sohal says, here from Seattle, Washington, I have an Express Entry profile flagged for review required for proof of funds. I've shown $50,000 and I'm a single applicant. I'm renting an apartment for my brother, and instead of making rental payments to my brother, I directly pay to his mortgage account. What should I do to let IRCC know that I have no loans or debts? Well, Harry, it's difficult to know and really answer your question without actually looking at what you included in your proof of funds. Did you have the letter from your bank? Did you, the proof that you've actually submitted, does it meet those minimum requirements that Express Entry expects you to meet in terms of the letters that the banks are issuing? I'm not quite sure what this is about, your brother and the mortgage and stuff like that. At the end of the day, the bank doesn't, like the IRCC doesn't get worked up over people who have mortgages. At the end of the day, most mortgages, in fact, all mortgages are asset backed. So just disclosing you have a mortgage, well, you've got assets or property. If you were to move to Canada, you would likely sell that home and that money would be available for you. But it's not that, it's not going to be a case where your mortgage is going to be considered a debt that's going to offset or a liability that's going to offset the assets. IRCC looks at things holistically. So I can't, in terms of the proof of funds, did you get a gift deed from someone? Did you, was there in the information that you provided something that would have triggered this officer to think, what's going on? Now, I'll also tell you when it comes to any request for a review, Harry, whether it's proof of funds or whether it's your background or reference letters, sometimes documents will get hung up, in the assessment process just because the officer wants to confirm. They want to do their own checks to make sure that it's valid. Sometimes they just, for program integrity purposes, just do random checks just to make sure that things are all accurate and consistent. That happens. So it may not be anything that you've even done wrong. Now, one thing people will notice that I haven't talked about a lot in the past is sometimes you'll get a request to provide a background declaration, a Schedule A background declaration for yourself or any adult dependents that you have. And lots of times people will wonder, well, why are they asking me this? In fact, one of my clients just recently received this. And so the first thing that you do, if you do get one of those requests, is to go through your EAPR answers. And remember, this is the magical tip of the day. Always, always take a copy of all of the screenshots of your entire EAPR so that you know the information that you put in there. And when you're going through and you're copying your address history or your work history or education or whatever it is, make sure that you open that information up by clicking on the edit button or to change information, so that it repopulates everything in that window, so that when you print it, it shows everything that's being printed, not just that summary table at the bottom of the page. So make a copy of everything before you click submit on your EAPR, and then you'll have a reference point to go back to in case they come back and say, provide a Schedule A background declaration. Because guys, why would they be providing that? It doesn't make any sense why they would do that, because they're basically asking for all of the same information that you've originally submitted in your EAPR. Ironically, if they're just asking for the Schedule A, it doesn't even include the travel history that you've put in. So why would they be asking for it? Well, I can tell you, if I step inside the mind of an officer, there's something in the way you've answered your questions that's created a doubt or a concern with that officer. And so although it would make a lot of sense just to directly ask the person to clarify why this was entered this way in your work history, sometimes they'll want to test you. They'll want to see, okay, this doesn't look right. This could be a fraudulent answer. There could be something fake about this. So let's see if the person answers the same lie twice. And in those cases, then they can come back and say, hey, you said you've never received a refusal on any visa for any other country, but we know back in 2012 you applied for a visitor visa to Canada and you didn't disclose it. And then in your background declaration, you're also entering the same information, which says, no, I was never refused a visa, and you're signing off and you're uploading it back into your document checklist of your MyCIC portal in accordance with what immigration has asked you to do. And then they've got 2 times where you've misrepresented yourself. And then they can come back and say, I'm sorry, you've misrepresented. You're going to be subject to a 5-year bar from applying to Canada. So those things can happen. And when there's a Schedule A request that comes back, understand there's something that they're just not sure about. So in the case of my client, we went back and looked through everything. We searched, we cross-referenced. I even had them go and recreate the Schedule A without looking at their EAPR, just to make sure that that the information that they provided wasn't somehow different, or they remembered it differently. Well, we noticed one thing that could potentially be an issue. And in this case, the principal applicant that I was representing completed 2 educational credentials at the exact same time in the same school. So they did an English as well as a French credential. But the reality is they studied in the beginning in the morning and attending classes in the morning for the one credential, and in the evenings completed the other. And so it was easy to explain it. And I'm not even sure if that's what the officer had the question with, but we provided a letter of explanation. We recompleted the Schedule A's. We identified the areas that we thought might be an issue, and we left it in the hands of the officer. And I think that's probably what happened. You'll see duplication, or maybe you failed to disclose that you've applied before. In terms of, Harry, your proof of funds, it's hard to say without actually looking at the documents. But one thing I do know is that if there is a review required, it means that there's something that just isn't clear, and that an officer actually is trying to look in more into whether or not what you've provided works, if it meets the minimum expectations of IRCC, or whether they have some doubt about whether you're telling the truth, or something within your documents they feel is just not correct or genuine. So there's a super long answer for you, Harry. And I guess I probably should have been trying to record these and timestamp them, but maybe my good friend who's a subscriber to the Canadian Immigration Institute's YouTube channel will be able to do some timestamps for me. All right, because I am on my own today. All right, the next one, this one is from Kushi, and he says, I got my passport request on March the 12th. I'm yet to submit my passport to VFS for stamping, and I have booked my tickets for May the 24th. I noticed that my passport expires on the 24th of November, exactly 6 months from the date of travel. Now what should be my ideal approach? Should I get my passport renewed right now and then get the stamping done? That's probably the answer right there, number 1. Number 2, submit the passport for stamping and then get it renewed. Nope, don't do that. Land in Canada on May 24th if it's possible, and then get it renewed. Needs your help as always. I always recommend that you get your passport renewed right at the beginning. Obviously, it depends on how long it takes to get that passport renewed, but then you notify IRCC who they're now called, so not CIC, but IRCC, notify them that you actually have to get your passport renewed, and then you can submit everything together so that your confirmation of permanent residence is actually linked and your visa to your valid passport. Yes, you could schedule and move things up, and if they issue the visa, travel to Canada quickly and get it and land and become a permanent resident. But there's too many things that could happen in the interim. So I actually like number one. That's what I would have you do. All right. Okay, next question is Vesha, and she says, "Hi, Mark. How do you get a certificate of qualification for the Federal Skilled Trade Program from outside of Canada?" Well, Vesha, you actually, in some cases, you have to go to the associations for whatever province that you are actually going to be seeking that certification, because it's by province basis that the trades issue trade certification. And so you'd have to reach out to each province to determine what their process was. Generally speaking, the initial assessment part can be done virtually. So you can apply, have your hours assessed to determine whether or not you meet the minimum requirements for work experience. But if the trade is a compulsory trade, then usually you have to actually travel and be in Canada to do the assessment. So each province is different, and you just have to contact the various trade associations for that particular trade that you want to include, and then ask them what their procedure is, because every province is different. Some have just written tests, others have practical examinations. Some actually may travel overseas to do an assessment, although I don't think they do that anymore. In the heyday in Alberta, when things were booming, some like big organizations that were bringing in lots of tradespeople were able to get trade certification done by paying for the person to travel over to Dubai or wherever to assess credentials. But I'm not sure if that exists now. So figure out where you're going, then contact that local trade association. All right. Okay, next question. Mohammed says, "Sir, what are the common mistakes and flaws in the employment letters?" Well, it's pretty simple, Mohammed, and this is where I'm going to share my screen with you. The common mistakes are when people don't include exactly what IRCC is looking for. So if I go to the completeness check, let's see if we can pull it up here on my screen. I can probably make it just a little bit bigger. Let's see. That makes it a little bit better. And then I go to the work history section, work experience. Your letter needs to include all of these things. So it says it should include all positions held, but it must include the following details. So why do employment letters get refused? Well, from a content standpoint, they're missing something with these descriptions. Job title. So what are the common ones that are missing? Job title is always there. Rarely are you ever going to be missing a job title. But rarely do the reference letters ever include duties and responsibilities. So that's an added thing that you have to do. Dates worked for the company? Yes, that's very common in there. But also number of work hours per week, that's very, very frequently omitted. They'll usually just indicate permanent or part-time work, full-time or part-time work. And then annual salary plus benefits, usually salary isn't listed. So those are some of the common ones that I would say, the duties and responsibilities, hours worked, and salary are very, very commonly the things that are missing. But what are some other things that would cause problems? Well, if you think about it, if an officer is looking at a reference letter and the contact information is not there to reach out to a supervisor to verify, that's an issue. What are some other reasons? Maybe your letter just looks fake. Sometimes when you have a letter and say the letterhead is like copy and pasted from the company's website and then stuck on the letter, and it's really blurry, or the resolution is not very clear and it looks like it's been just copied and pasted to the top of the document, that's an issue, right? If they have doubts about the veracity of it. What's another issue? If the person signing your letter is using an email address for Gmail or Hotmail or something like that instead of the company's email suffix. So those are some of the issues, and I think at this stage that's exactly what I could tell you is to focus on those things. All right. Okay, good question. Let's jump back here and see who we've got next. And of course, my my page is now shifted down. So there's probably 5,000 other people who've asked questions and I missed them all. Okay. Afsar says, hi, Mark. How are you? Do you remember me? Yes, I do, Afsar. Good to see you. Thanks for connecting. Okay, Mir Hassan says, I'm pursuing my master's degree in software engineering from top 10 ranked university in China and interested to pursue my doctoral studies or for express entry in Canada. My nationality is Pakistan. Okay, well, Mr. Hassan, Mir Hassan, if you're looking for guidance and direction on what to do, specifically, that's something that I recommend you book a paid consultation. And in half an hour, for approximately $210 Canadian, that's $200 for the consult plus 5% sales tax, we can go over everything and we can talk about your eligibility, the possibilities that exist, and essentially whether it's best to come consider studying early and getting a study permit, or whether it's best to come as a permanent resident through express entry. And we can talk about all those things. And I don't know if anybody here, one of these fine viewers, can just post the link to my firm website where I have my consult intake form. If you could post that in the comments for Mr. Hassan, actually just reply to him directly, that would be so helpful. Because remember, I don't have Stephanie helping me today. Okay, Rahul says, hi, Mark. I'm from Pune, India. Hi, I'm still lacking points for cutoff. Is there a trusted way to get job offers while offshore? Knock 2171. Rahul, I can tell you that there are so many scammers out there. In fact, I'm on our national executive for the Canadian Bar Association, the immigration section. I'm the secretary. And our past chair just forwarded to us an email she received from someone in India who basically was telling her that they would pay, what was it? I don't know. It was like something crazy, like $20,000 for them to arrange LMIAs for people. And clearly that is 110% illegal. So crooked. And they had the audacity to reach out to an immigration lawyer who is on our national executive, who has the utmost highest ethics. And it amazes me. So Rahul, there is no easy way to do it. If you're able to get a visitor visa and come to Canada and actually meet with employers in person, you're going to have a way greater chance of success than just applying by email to job postings you find on the job bank. So I would just want to point that out for you, that that is something. But obviously, even getting a visitor visa is very, very difficult. Okay, but I wish you all the best. All right, Kara says, when I received my ITA, then my invitation to land in Canada, do I need a visa to land for the first time? Can you explain this part, please? Kara, when you receive your passport request, you're going to send that through to IRCC via one of the visa application centers, VFS or one of them, or wherever you're at. You're going to send your passport in. If you're coming from a country that needs a visa, I'm assuming you do, then when you submit your passport, they actually imprint a travel visa, a permanent resident visa, right in your passport. And that permanent resident visa is your authority to travel to Canada together with your confirmation of permanent residence that you'll get back. When you land at the airport in Canada, you'll hand them your passport with your visa in it and that confirmation of permanent residence. And that officer, that Canada Border Services Agency officer, is going to land you and you will become a permanent resident at that date. Not when you get your permanent resident card. You become a permanent resident when you complete the landing at the airport when you first arrive in Canada. Okay, great question, Kara. All right, Aryan says, hi there, Mark. I'm standing at 447 in the express entry pool. Any chance of getting an ITA in the near future? Yes, I think you have a very, very good chance. In fact, it's entirely possible that maybe even on the next draw, but we'll see. But I think you're in really good shape. Hang in there. I know they've been 450. They've been north of 450 a little bit the last stretch, but hang in there. You're going to be close. Okay, Rabbi says, what is your prediction for tomorrow draw? It will be still more than 450, ironically. I'm going to predict it's going to be 447 for Aryan. Okay. We'll see what happens. And guys, there's no guarantee that the draw is going to happen tomorrow, right? Traditionally, it's always been around 2 weeks, every 2 weeks, but there's no guarantee. It's gone 3 weeks. It's gone 4 weeks. So we never know. We'll see. Okay. Abby says, hi, Mark. Hi. Sarah, why doesn't IRCC update status on profile regularly? It would make the process less stressful. There's no change in profile, and all of a sudden you get passport request. Thank you, thank you, Thank you, Sarah, for pointing that out. You guys who have ITAs and have submitted your EAPR know that there's this goofy little timeline bar that is set in your profile, well, in your MyCIC account, showing the status of your application. But what you have to realize is that that little status bar, to start with, from the date that you file your EAPR, it says your application will be processed. Guess when? 6 months from the date that you submit your EAPR. So understand, when people ask me, how long is it going to take? How can I expect? I always tell them how long? 6 months. But at the end of the day, how fast your application goes through the queue depends on how fast an officer reviews it, or how fast they update GCMS, or they toggle or advance forward, whatever it is, And so you have to understand that there is a very, very generalized idea of how long it's going to take, and by no means actually represents when your application is going to be approved. And you are so awesome, Sarah, because you have indicated right here that all of a sudden you get your PPR request, and that's exactly it. So don't compare yourself to other people that are posting their timelines online. Do not expect your experience to be the same as the person who filed on the exact same day you did. There are so many different factors outside of your control that relate to everything from the country you're applying from the officer that's adjudicating it, to even the workload of that officer. So there's so many factors. All right, good question. Okay, Doe says, hi, I have the question regarding the Canadian Experience class. I have enough points based on CRS, but I have one of the English modules did not pass minimum required CLB 7. I have CLB 6 for this band in the last test. Can I submit my documents to the pool or wait until I redo my test? Okay, remember, you must meet the minimum eligibility criteria for that program in order to get into the pool. And I can tell you that if you're CEC and you're in Canada, you also have to determine whether or not you're what occupation you're working in. Because remember, if you're working in a skill level B, the minimum language requirement for that is actually CLB 5. So you may already be eligible depending upon the level of your position. And I don't see a knock code here. If you're in a skill level A or O, then you need a 7 across the board, but not for a CLB 5, not for a knock B position. So that might be something you need to consider. But if you are in a skill level A or O, and your work experience that you're claiming in Canada, that 1 year is at that level, then yes, you need a CLB 7 if you are going to be able to meet the minimum eligibility criteria for the Canadian Experience class. All right. Okay, next question. Imrul says, how to calculate work experience. If I do contractual jobs for the same company, I have 1 year continuous work experience and multiple contracts, 4 to 6 months each job. I'm a bit confused about how to show this work experience. Imrul, I'll be honest, the best thing in the world is probably to book a consultation with me, because when it comes to assessing self-employed work experience or work experience that's done on a contract basis, it can get pretty complicated because no two people are alike. And so there's a whole list of possible things that you can do to try to prove it. But I will just share my screen with you again here. And we'll go back into this completeness check right where we were before. And you'll see under the heading, proof of work experience, there's a specific paragraph devoted exclusively to self-employed people, which really, if you're on a contract basis, you're self-employed. So they want you to have proof of business ownership. So an article of incorporation or some other evidence that your business has been registered and is running. And then you need evidence of self-employment income so that you're actually getting paid, and documentation from third parties who are usually your clients indicating the service that you provided, along with the fact that they actually paid for it. So what they're getting at is they're trying to identify the same types of things that you would see in a reference letter from an employer. But obviously, it's going to be a little bit more challenging because you can see right here, self-declared main duties or affidavits are not acceptable proof of self-employed work experience. So you can't just say, hey, here's an affidavit, this is what I did, and that's good enough. You actually have to find independent proof. And I always like to find contracts invoices or contracts or whatever you have with the people you're doing work for, proof over the whole time that you want to claim work experience for. So if you're trying to claim 3 years, which really for most people is the maximum that you're going to need of foreign work experience, then you're going to want independent documentation to prove that you actually provided those contract services continuously for at least 30 hours a week over this 3-year period or whatever it may be, and that your duties were consistent with the NOC code that you've identified. And it becomes tricky. It does. And it really depends. It's so specific on you and what you can get. All right. Okay. Hopefully that one helped. Let's jump back here to the next one. All right. And once again, it shifted all the way to the bottom. So bear with me. Okay. Let's see here if I can find some more answers. And please forgive me. I'm doing the best I can to try to answer these in the queue that they're on, but sometimes I miss things, so bear with me. Okay, so let's see. Okay. All right. Joel says, hi, Mark. Hi, Joel. Okay, Majid says, I'm 29. How much the immigration chances if my IELTS is not CLB 9? Any alternative available? If you're not a CLB 9, it becomes extremely difficult because you're just losing tons of skill transferability points. In fact, at least 50 points potentially you're losing if you're combining that language ability with skilled work experience. And so the only thing I can advise is just keep working at it, because English is everything within this process. Kara says, will a former visa denial halt your progress on receiving PR? Well, there's a number of reasons that could affect a person being delayed. In some cases, when you disclose that you had a prior refusal or you answer yes to any of those statutory information questions within your electronic application for permanent residence. For those who are new, that's after you submit your profile, you get your ITA, your invitation to apply, and then you submit your electronic application for permanent residence. Well, at that stage, there's a section that's newly created called statutory information. And if you've answered yes to any of those, sometimes that can trigger a request for an updated Schedule A form where you more fully disclose the nature of the refusal. But I can tell you, Kara, generally speaking, a visa refusal from another country isn't going to hold up your application. It doesn't impact negatively from a general aspect. If you applied for a visitor visa to Canada and got refused, that is not going to hurt your chances of applying to express entry in any way and immigrating as a permanent resident. It's just not. The key for you, though, is to always disclose it. Never, ever listen to anyone, any representative that tells you that you don't need to disclose a visa refusal from Germany or something like that, right? You always disclose it, okay? All right, I'm going to answer a couple more questions and then I have to sign off because I have to get ready for my next appointment with my other client. But thanks everybody for tuning in and being patient with me. Okay, I'm going to go with, Afsar says, my question is, I have a 2-year education from Canada. Very cool. Fall and winter full-time for the first year. Second year, fall was full-time as well. However, last semester, that was a winter semester, was part-time. Would I get 5 points for adaptability for Canadian education? By the way, I've cleared my eligibility, but case an analyst assigned me 70 points. But elsewhere in my GCMS, I see 75 points. Also, visa officer also mentioned that I got points for adaptability. Either way, I'm above 67. If Canadian education is considered, I have 75 points. Without it, I have 70 points. So the short answer, Afsar, is it doesn't matter whether you have 70 points, 75 points, 100 points, or 67 points. As long as it's above the minimum eligibility threshold for the Federal Skilled Worker Program, then you're fine. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. So don't worry about that. It makes no difference. You're above. That's all you need to worry about. And whether they assign you 70 or 75, it does not matter. All right. Okay, I think yes. I know a lot of other people have asked a bunch of other questions that I wasn't able to get to. I think what I might try to do is if you guys can send me an email, and this is probably the best way to do it. Let's see if I can find this here for you. So you will see that I have a new email address. Hopefully I can find it. For Stephanie. and you can forward your questions directly to her right there. So I'll move this up. So if you have a question that you want answered and you were not able to get it answered today, don't fear. So what I want you to do is to send an email to stephanie@stringham.ca, and don't forget to put EE Live Q&A in the subject line. Put your question in there, because if you don't put EE Live Q&A, I'll assume that your question just relates to you wanting to book a consultation with me. The question has to be of general nature, so it can't be, can I qualify for express entry, or should I apply for a study permit or express entry? It needs to be something of general applicability to everyone. So if your question, if I didn't get to it today, send me an email and I will make sure that your question is answered in the next EE Live Q&A. Okay, I'll make sure. So thanks so much for being a part of this, for tuning in. I'll slide this back down here so you guys can continue seeing it. As always, remember that this whole process, everything that we're doing here, has all been sponsored right here by my Express Entry Complete Step-by-Step Guide to Doing It Yourself. And the reality is, if you guys just type in CanadianImmigrationInstitute.com, it will take you right here, and you can subscribe to a lifetime access or a monthly access depending upon your needs. And in here, I have literally walked you through step by step the entire Express Entry process, how to complete your profile, and all the way through to getting your ITA, submitting your EAPR. And then, as one person recently sent me a message, and I'm assuming they were probably an immigration consultant who was looking at the course so that they could figure out everything they were doing wrong. I don't know. But they had sent me an email that basically said, oh, this information isn't helpful at all. It's all general. And I've heard that so many times before. But the reality is, the real source of information is in the member resource section. I'm not going to take my walkthrough and in specific detail, cover off every possible problem people could have. No one wants to sit and watch a video tutorial for 2 hours while I'm explaining something that has nothing to do with them. So instead, I created individual videos, and there are a ton at the end of it where people can go and they can get answers to their specific questions. So if I type in right here, Canadian Immigration Institute, it takes me right here, and this is where you guys can enroll. Those who are watching this video, if you go to enroll and then lifetime access, and then you type in, as soon as it loads up here, in this add coupon section, if you type in EEDIY 50%, you will get 50% off a lifetime access. So don't tell anyone. Only you who are actually watching this live video will get the benefit of that discount offer. So right now, that's what I'm offering. But if we go back here to Canadian Immigration Institute, what I want to show you guys is what I'm talking about. So if I log in, and this is what it looks like when you log in, you'll see I have answers for everything leading up to the basics. Some of you can skip by that. You already know how it works. Submitting your profile, things that you need to do to prepare. Some of you are getting ready to do it. Well, hold off until you watch these so that you make sure you're not wasting money that you don't need to spend. Completing the profile, and then the EAPR forms, and all of this, even all the way down to the documents that you're going to upload. So this is the document checklist section. And all of that is great, but you can see the timestamps. This one, eligibility, took 20 minutes. This one was only 2 minutes. This one, 13 minutes, your personal details. 11 minutes for the contact details. So you don't have to waste time. And I've broken it all down into principal applicant, spouse, dependent children. But the reality is, the real unique circumstances, or things that maybe are just unusual or challenging circumstances, I've put into my member resource section down here. Because like I said, nobody wants to watch a video on work history that covers every single thing, every single part of the whole process, and it takes 2 hours to watch. It's totally ineffective. But that's why I created all of this general information, work experience, and this work experience one is full of info, including self-employment. The language areas, how to increase language. Well, I invited Chris Enders to come join me and talk about tips and strategies on improving your IELTS scores. And then everything, qualifying, job offers, proof of funds. And you can see, guys, it goes on and on and on. And so all of these videos are the thing that adds the real value. But stupid people like the person who said, oh, it's of no use to me, never took the time to actually look at it. Why? Because they're probably just scammers who are just trying to see what the competitors are doing. And at the end of the day, I would hope that it would seem simple to them because they're the ones that are trained to teach you guys how to do. Well, who am I kidding? They're not teaching you. They're taking your money to represent you. So hopefully they already know how to do it. But I know I've got lots of consultants that have purchased the lifetime access, and the reality is I'm not concerned about it. I'm actually happy because if it means that they are providing a better quality service to their clients and are not learning their trade off of the backs of the mistakes and screw ups that they have with their clients, then that's good. That's helping more people to protect them and keep them safe. All right. So that is about it today, guys. I've covered off everything that I think I can. It's 6 minutes before I have to get into my consult with my client. Thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in. It's been another great EE Live Q&A. It was late getting started, but at the end of the day, I think it turned out pretty darn good. So thanks so much for everybody that's tuned in, and I'll see you guys again next time, Tuesday, every Tuesday. The theory is noon, and if it doesn't happen, hang tight because there's something that's tied up, but noon, Mountain Standard Time, every Tuesday is when we do this. All right, those tuning in on the Canadian Immigration Institute, welcome, and I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I will continue to upload these to YouTube when they're completed here on the Express Entry Law private Facebook group. Take care, everyone. This is Mark Holthe, Canadian immigration lawyer, ex-immigration officer, and former high school teacher, signing off and wishing you guys all the best as you navigate this crazy world that we call Express Entry.